Good evening and welcome to BT's Fun at the Vice. Tonight is Plan B Humpies on this day just before the new year. Can you recover from a mistake? Well, we're sure going to try. Good evening. We're the BTs and Happy New Year to all of you. And we're going to start tonight by taking a look at our materials. I've got a lot of them. Some that I probably don't even need, but I've got it here just in case. Anyway, you see I've got all kinds of hair: elk, more elk, moose, deer, more deer. We have all kinds of hackle, hooks, static guard. This is really important. Right now we're headed to below zero in Idaho, and I can tell you what, the static electricity is going crazy. So Al is going to spray down everything right now. His hands too, because I'll tell you what, the hair is sticking to everything today. It's really bad. So if you're having trouble with the hair sticking to your hair stacker, your hands, your scissors, not wanting to stack, there's a darn good chance that it's not the hair at all. It's the static electricity. Anyway, let's take a look at the recipe now, and how we're going to use these materials. This is a recipe for just a standard Humpy, and tonight we're going to be doing so many different things. We're just going to use the one recipe and work from there. I'm going to have a 1 long dry fly hook. I'm going to use a 10 tonight. We're going to use orange thread, but you all know already that Humpies are tied with everything under the sun. We'll have moose for the tail. The wings and the hump will be elk or deer or both. The body will be thread, and I'm going to use brown, or we're going to use some grizzly a little later into the evening. What we call the roadmap fly. That's where we're going to go tonight. It's where we hope to end up anyway. Now, the way we normally tie this fly is we use 6/0 thread for sizes 14 and smaller, and some kind of floss for the larger flies, and then switch to 6/0 to finish it. So this is a 10. I'm going to start. At the middle of the hook. Now let's just come back and remember I'm going to stop 2 thread turns shy of the center. That's because I want my trimmed off hair fibers for the tail to land right on that spot. And I'll show you something when I get to that. And first thing we're going to do is make sure that we're not putting too much hair on the fly. This is one of the first mistakes many tiers tying with hair make, and that is that if a little bit is just right, a whole lot is better. Well, the way we judge the proper volume of hair in a hair tail is take the bundle that's been stacked, put it in my fingers, and give it a twist. And at the twist over point, we want it to be about the same diameter as the outside of the hook eye. Okay, and that's pretty close. I don't think I have to get rid of any more. And I'm going to measure that for length, and the length is equal to the length of the hook shank. And this is a pretty critical measurement. On the way I'm going to tie this fly, it's not real critical, but fairly critical. But when you tie the fold over style that we'll talk about in a little bit, it's very critical. Now I'm just going to wrap back to the bend, back to the end of the shank, and back forward to my starting point. And now here's where we want to take a look. Okay, I want you to notice, let me zoom in. You see right in front of the hair where I'm holding it up, where the thread ends right here. When I cut that hair off, that's the evidence of material creep. It's already slipped forward just a little bit further than I wanted it. That's okay, because I was giving myself a little bit of slush anyway. But you see why you have to back up 2 turns from where you think you want to be? Had we been there and then cut it off, it would have creeped forward on the hook this much right here. We'd already been in trouble. All right. Now, tilt my hair stacker in the direction that I want the wings to go on the fly. Now here I'm going to purposely make an error from which I'll have to recover. Now that I know is too long. Yeah, that's about the equivalent of the hook eye part of the hook that I don't want to include into the wing size. I'll just go ahead and spin that up and get it into place. We're going to start out then with a wing that's too long. We'll deal with that downstream here in just a little bit, but for right now, let's go into the part of the Humpy where we're going to build part of the hump out of waste from the wing. I want you to notice right here. Normally you would cut this off and try to blend the hairs together. I don't want to do that. I'm going to actually form part of the hump with the waste from the wings so that I don't have to use as much hair in the hump, which is a lot more difficult to maneuver. So I'm almost back as far as I want to go, and I'm going to cut that off. See, my hands are in the way there. Maybe I can.
I don't think you can do it any other way.
I'm just going to have to get in there and cut it. Okay, that's what it looks like when I cut it. And even at that, I had to leave it a little bit long on the other side, but I'll get that off. Now I'm just going to wrap over that and bind that down. And what I have now is a real gobby looking mess. And that's all right. We'll take care of it. It's this soft stuff right here. And as you can see when we've talked about hair before, it's light colored all the way out to the tip. And it flares all the way to the tip. Really nice stuff for spinning, but not for wings and tails. Until I figured out that it was really great for tying humps, especially if I built part of the hump out of the waste from the wing, so that I didn't have to have quite as much, because this long, soft stuff is really nice to, like I said, to spin. Boy, it's hard to control though if you're not going to spin it. And spinning it is really basically a way of losing control. Now I'm going to go out over to the bin and cut that off right there, even. Now I want you to notice a real easy way to make a mistake is get this too far forward. You see how that's getting up close to the back of those wings? Absolute mistake. You've just created a problem where your wings are going to be too short and no room left to wrap a hackle. We want to tie that on. Notice that they slipped around while I was talking. I'll cut them off again. Notice that the butt ends are lining right up with the point of the hook. And the other thing that will happen if I pull straight down to tighten that on the hair, the floss or thread, whichever you're using, is going to slip right off over the end. But if I pull down and back at the same time, it doesn't. And now I'll go ahead and wrap towards the back of the hook. And we'll just wrap over all that, make a nice smooth body, working our way forward. Now here's what we don't want to do is, again, the natural tendency when people tie using this particular style of tying is to wrap all the way up to the wing, and then they pull this over and tie it down. And again, the wing gets pushed forward and all of a sudden there's no room left for the hackle. Well, let's talk about, for a moment, I'm just going to let that stand right there. Let's talk about the hackle platform. The hackle platform is the area of the hook, and I'm just going to tilt it here so you can see the part of the hook we need to allocate for hackle starts right here, right behind the hook eye at a downward bend, and it goes right back to a position, part of the way behind the wings. That's the front 1/3 of the hook. We allocate that as a hackle platform. So I want to make sure that the waste from my hump does not get into very far into that hackle platform. If I tie it down in the middle of that, I've lost a good portion of it. Okay, now I've kind of stroked these fibers and pulled them forward. And the only way you can finish tightening the fibers on a humpy, is to push them tight, not pull them tight. So I'll just kind of stroke forward from the back with the thumb, with my trigger finger, thumb and trigger finger together, got them. There, that's going to be a little bit better. Now, the natural tendency for people when they trim this off is to say to themselves, oh boy, I want to cut that off short because I don't want it to show. And that's the big mistake. What you do is you cut it off long because you're going to use that long to fix mistakes or to bind into the base of the wing. And in this case, we're going to fix a mistake because we kind of screwed up and the wing is too long. Let me verify that. Yep, it's just a little bit on the long side. So what I want to do now is I need to change to the thread from the floss. Notice that I've got the waist hair here. I've got the wing, and the wing is too long already. I know that. And I need to keep that wing somewhere in that hackle platform, if you will. What I'm going to do is I normally take and wrap crisscross wraps between my wing posts and through the waist from the hump. But I already got a problem with the wings. They're a little bit on the long side. So what I'm going to do instead of that is I'm going to bind the waist down to the hook, pushing forward slightly on the wings so it shortens them up a little bit when we finish tying them. But the wings will still fall within the hackle platform. So, and to do that, I'm going to attach my thread and use my method of attaching thread to allow me to tie down the waist from the hump rather than crisscross between it and tie it into the base of the wings like I normally do. And I'm temporarily using the floss in front of the wings as a pull point so that I can wrap back. You see how my thread is going back and grabbing those fibers from the waist from the hump? You can lay that right down and make it nice and smooth. Looks like it was intended. Hackle platform in front is a little bit on the skinny side. Happens all the time. If you are tying flies to go fishing or just for your friends, don't worry about it. But if you're entering some kind of a contest or you're worried about passing your gold, your silver, or your bronze in the FFI awards program, then you could add some bulk on the top of the hook right here so that the hackle platform in front of the wing is closer to the size of the hackle platform behind. And that's just what I'm going to do. And I'll just tie a bundle of that here right there in front.
What does that do? Push the wing back?
It does two things. It pushes the wing back and it provides a little bit larger base on which to wrap the hackle. Now I'm going to crisscross these wings, and because you're a lot better wrapper of hackle than I am, you get to do that.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, I knew you'd be thrilled. I knew you'd be thrilled. You got to come and fix my mess ups.
Just don't crowd the eye.
Well, if I do, you probably will tell me about it and then fix it. And the wings are going to turn out still just a little bit long. Alrighty. Now I'll reach over here and get some of this hackle for Gretchen. And she's getting ready to come over here. I'll leave that hackle up on top there for her.
And we'll solve our problem here.
You get the crisscross with the longer hackle, and then you can fill in the front part with the second hackle coming through, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Today at coffee, Jim Fisher was relaying how Bruce Staples put him in between you and Gretchen on one of his first flight time demo experiences. And he had chosen the Humpy. And you had just come out with your book, and he was so nervous, and he said he just felt like an idiot sitting between two masters on the Humpy. And I don't think he ever forgave Staples for that.
Well, I didn't know it, so it was all right.
My magnifier's on here. There we go. That's
You want me to
better.
go get the other magnifiers?
Yeah, it's okay. I was sewing with my other magnifiers.
I'll go get
today.
them. Just,
No,
don't take me.
I'm good. I'm good. I got it.
You're all right?
I'm so good at see, huh?
Yeah.
This is not the best tackle I've ever done. I have to say. You know, that fix of yours caused me problems. I have to say that.
Well, then,
But there it is. It's not too bad. What do you think?
it's not the best one. I sure wouldn't put it in a contest, but or send it to Jim Ferguson to evaluate for the gold.
Yeah, but you don't have the space back here.
No, that's an important function that happens on almost every hair wing fly, is that when you wrap the hackle from the back to the front, there's a space under the wing, sometimes on both sides, but always on the off side. You can tell which way the hackle is wrapped in a heartbeat on almost all hair wing flies that beginning hair wing tires do, because of that space under the hackle. The next one I'm going to do is one that I've preset so that we wouldn't have to spend a whole lot of time tonight going through some of the stuff that you went through the other night. And I've done a pullover humpy with a wing that is either too long or too short. And in this case, obviously the wing is way too long. But it could be just the reverse, and the wing would be way too short. We're just going to pretend that I had this tied up to this point, and I discovered when I pulled the hump over to make the wings that I had a wing that was either too long or too short. And so what do you do before you just cut it off the hook and start over? Well, you cut part of it off the hook and start over. And that's what I'm going to do right here. Okay, if you screw up the first part, maybe you can make it right the second time around. And now I'm going to wrap forward to the hook eye and just leave it hang there. Now I'm going to, I think just for the fun of it, I'm going to put a deer hair wing on this one. It started out as elk, and it didn't want to be born with an elk wing, so it's going to get a deer wing. I am going to measure this for length of the hook shank, set it in place where I would want that wing to be, move forward, take a wrap around the wing bundle, snug it up slightly, and then cut it off as if you were tying an elk-haired caddis. Now slide this back to the wing position where it's supposed to be and bind it in place. So I'm going to go forward to the front of the hook to a pull point. I think we've talked about this before. And I'm going to go around the back of the wing and pull forward to stand that up just a little bit better. And now I'll wrap through the waist at the back. The waist from the wing that I cut off that was too long.
Why did you tie it forward and push it back instead of just tying it in place?
That's because when you go to trim it, you have to be able to get rid of any of the bulk that would get in the way of jamming up the hook eye. See that the in front area? Had I cut it off here, I would have been cutting it off right out here, and the hack would have been too long, or I'd have been in here trying to trim around the hook. But if I slide it forward, I can cut in front of the hook and shove it back.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Now I'm going to wrap around each wing post after I've crisscrossed between them. All right. Now what we've done is we've recovered from a bad wing into a wing more the length that we wanted. And I will give this now to Gretchen to just add a grizzly.
Clear off some fibers here, so I have a tie in. And we'll do this one too. Oh, I guess it's already done. So, and I'm going to tie them on at the same time. So I just even these up right there. So the fibers are all coming off the same. Hold them at an angle and be sure to leave a little bit of bare. Put my magnifiers down. Okay, there we go. Now always check about this point to make sure that those bare stems aren't going to get in the way and protrude out over the eye. And then I'm going to stop right where I want the hackle to stop. I'm going to wind the short one first. I probably wouldn't have needed to. That other one's pretty long, but this kind of, it's just a good exercise. I'm going to come back behind and around, come forward, working my way through the previous hackle. Tie it off with 2 wraps. Push it back. Push it back into itself. Which can be a little bit of a challenge with 2 of them. You have to apply a little more pressure than when it's just one. And I'll do a good whip finish. Starting back towards, working my way to the eye. That wasn't a very good one. I think I need a couple more, couple of them slipped. I don't know if you saw that, but there we go. Trim off the thread. Sometimes you need to pull this back forward after you've pushed them back and kind of dress it a little bit. I don't have that much hackle left, so I probably did need 2 of them.
Yep, looks like it.
Okay, let's look at the back, and you can see we don't have a space back there.
All right, I'm going to start. I normally would start my thread at the 1/3 position because that's where I want the wing to be. I'm going to move back just a tiny bit. You'll see why here in just a minute. Thread creep is not quite as bad with this particular way of tying, but it's just a present way of showing what can happen. Let me go ahead and tie on this tail. Now I'm going to trim that off, and I want that to land right there at the front because I'm just getting this down to a proper size bundle for a hair wing. And I'll review that just quickly. Again, what we do is we use the bundle method, and the hair's all spread out now. But if I get down into the working area of the hair where I'm going to actually work with it, I grab it in a pinch of my left hand, then I bring the right in from the about a 90-degree turn from that. Pinch, 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 pinch hard. And that should be about equal to the gap of the hook, and that's the right size of the bundle for the wings. Now, we're going to measure this for the length of the hook shank and try to tie it on here. And we need to cut off the waist. Now I can try to cut it off after I've tied on the wing, or I can just move out over the waist bit and cut it off and hope that I get it about right. I might get lucky. Then again, I might not. Pull that bundle up slightly. There, that's better. I think you can see that we're going to have a Hackle platform fairly consistent in size there. It's another way for you to tie a wolf that will have your evaluator scratching his head as to how did you get the Hackle platform so consistently even. Now I've got this so that we can just look at the back of those wings, and I need to get just a few more in that right hand wing. I think that's closer to even. And I'll turn it so you can see. The camera slightly lower. That makes a pretty evenly divided set of wings. Let me just go around. Means we got the camera pointing in that direction. Let me just go around that wing post a few times there and lock it into place. I want you to notice that one hair right here that's just sticking up and another one right here. I wasn't real careful about getting layers 3, 4, and 5 out of that bundle. Which one do you think is layers 3 and 4? And which do you think is 1 and 2? Take a look now. I'll give you the wild guys that don't want to get with the program. They look the same, but they don't act the same. You understand what I'm saying now? There we go. Now we're going to turn it around so you're looking at the front of the hook. And I will wrap around the other wing post.
That looks good.
Now let's see. Let's take a good look at our I still got one wild number 2 one that just doesn't want to get with the program there. All right, so let's take a look at these wings. Gives you a really nice fly with a good underbase, and you don't have a big set of shoulders right back here to try to cover up with Hackle. You've just got a good consistent all the way through. It's pretty even front and back, behind those wings and in front, just by tying the wings
a
on.
little bit of a hill here.
Just a little bit of a hill there. And I can make up for that by tying a little something in the back. I think maybe I'll do
I
that.
don't know if that's really necessary, because the hackle at the butt is going to be longer.
Yeah, okay.
I think it'll turn out okay.
All right. So let me find another Hackle around here. And grizzly. I had some grizzly, didn't I? No, you used the
I
grizzly.
used the grizzly.
That's right. Well, let me get my.
It's a size 10.
No, I got some brown over here.
Well, I've got a grizzly right here. If you want one.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to get my dubbing wax out here. We're going to try the Wrangler drying lint. Gary Borger would be so proud. He is the father of picking up stuff off the floor and tying flies out of it.
Gary Borger is?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
I used to follow him at all the doggone shows. I was the guy that came after he did his gig at San Mateo and all those other California shows there for the ISE.
Let's check this
Can
one.
Is that a 10?
How does that look? I can't see.
I can't see either. That's good enough. Okay, we'll twist this dryer lint into place. I got a bad spot right there. I don't want to do that. Isn't it crazy the number of wild things that we do just for you people? Like I've never used dryer lint before. And I mean, I've looked at it for years and years and never done it.
When I saw it the other day, I thought,
Yeah.
when you first dry your Wranglers, you get a lot of dye in the fuzz.
Yeah. So this is really, it may look black on camera, but it's really a really deep blue. Now let's see, that's a grizzly. And let's see if it's, yep, it's good. I'll just tie that on while I'm finishing dubbing, because I like dubbing under my hackle on my wolves. Now, I didn't do it that way to do the gold, but that's all right. I was following a recipe, but when I'm doing my own, I like to have a little dubbing under them. Go to the front of the wing, go back behind, fill in that spot, and now come forward with the hackle.
I taught you well. That looks good.
Yeah, you did a good job of teaching me on that, Chris. Yeah. Okay, whip finish tool right here.